Hey, welcome to the Youth Podcast from St. Catherine's Church. We hope you are encouraged and inspired. If you would like to contact us more, please email us at info@stcatharines.ie.
Hey, welcome to the Youth Podcast, another episode here at St. Catherine's Youth. We're so glad that you tuned in today to listen in on a conversation. We have a very special guest. My friend Jason Patterson is with us all the way from the States, and really excited for you to get to know him. He's been a good friend of mine now for years. We go way back. So hey, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are?
Well, I'm a pastor in Indianapolis, and before we planted this church just over 3 years ago, I traveled full-time. So I would be in different churches and speaking at events and stuff like that. That's how I got to know Shane way back in the day at camps here in Ireland. So I do that. I do a few other things too. I write and develop discipleship materials and a few other things along with that. But anyways, keeps me busy.
Yeah. And you're married? You got a family?
Yeah, right. Married. Actually, this summer's our 10-year wedding anniversary. So our plan is to come to Ireland. So see if that works out. But it's all scheduled and everything. So I got 2 kids as well. My daughter is 7 and my son is 3. So crazy times cooped up in the house with the 2 of them, but we're having fun as well.
Totally. Yeah, I really hope you can come this summer to Ireland and just hang out and enjoy the good weather that we always get here. But I love you. I love your family. I've been to stay with you over in the States, in Indiana. What a beautiful place. Really miss you guys. Really miss being there. And it was such a memorable time of my life that I'll always look back on and treasure. So hey, I want to just kind of throw a few different questions and thoughts at you, and we're gonna have a quick chat around some things that are going on right now, and particularly with COVID-19 and how it looks for, I guess, youth ministry, young people, the church, all going forward. And we're all having conversations about it, and I just think it's good to help some people out and try and clarify some things on what we think could look like the new normal or the new future. So how have you particularly been coping during COVID-19?
Probably the biggest thing is it's a perspective or like a mindset. And it's really just to focus on the opportunities and not the obstacles. With stuff like this, especially when you get thrown kind of a curveball this big that kind of nobody saw coming. You kind of have that choice. You can either get all caught up in the fact that this is a huge obstacle, the economy is shutting down, like what's going to happen. You can move forward in fear or faith, those kind of choices. And for us, both as just a family first, and then as a pastor and leader and all of those things, just focused on, hey, this is a unique season of life. My wife and I talked about it early on. There will probably never be another time where for 2 straight months, we're all at home together as a family. Like, crazy? Is it different? Is it weird? Is it challenging? Sure. But it's also an opportunity we probably will never have again. Like, we don't spend this kind of time with our kids. Like totally. They go to school. My son goes to daycare. We go to work, and so now we're all at home. So it's an incredible opportunity. So we've tried to cope with it just by taking that opportunity and developing new habits and routines as a family. And so we've had a lot of fun. Is it challenging? Yeah. Like I'm not trying to make it sound like it's easy for the Patterson family. Oh, if you just focus on our community, then like everything will be perfectly fine. Like, no, it's crazy. I have a 3-year-old son who, we're doing this podcast right now because he's taking a nap and I can actually get something done. So yeah, it is. But I think that's one of the biggest keys is it's having that healthy perspective that's rooted in faith in God. That's a big key to a season like this. So, that's for the most part how we've been coping. Again, both as a family and as a church, we've really tried to seize this as an opportunity for church with creating new things and doing stuff that we weren't doing before.
Yeah, totally. I've been saying this a lot to people, but I think it's an opportunity to accelerate and maybe some of the things that you wanted to get going, some of the things you wanted to do in the future, but there's so many things in front of you, so many other things ahead of you that you just weren't going to get to it. I think we have a great opportunity as the church. I think as people, whether we're entrepreneurs or we want to start something new for the first time, I think we have a great opportunity to get going on that and make a start. So I love that. So, hey, I want to kind of get you to speak into some of our community and our young people. Obviously, right here, right now, schools are all closed globally. I think they're closed, and so we have a lot of young people who are awaiting exams, scheduling, and whether they're going to happen or not. Here, it's the leaving cert. That's kind of your way into college, and so we've got all sorts of young people thinking, am I going to get to do my exams? Is this going to happen? What do I do in the meantime? How do I handle all that? And then we've got young people who are just really off school, at home, probably playing Fortnite. I just want to ask you, what would you say to some of our young people right now? How can they, I guess, seize the opportunity in this season?
Yeah, probably the biggest thing, especially for those who feel like, you're supposed to be taking your exams. Like it was a big step in what was supposed to be like, your future, for the rest of this year and then on into college and all that. The first thing I would do is pray for wisdom. The Bible says that if you lack wisdom, just ask for it. I mean, honestly, it's like about the simplest formula, ever. If you don't have it, ask for it. And it's a season where I think we need wisdom. Like you don't want to move forward in a crisis kind of like under your own steam. Like you don't want to do it just based off what you know and what you understand and what you can foresee. Like you really want to seek the wisdom of God and the Spirit of God at work in your heart and in your life moving forward. So that'd probably be the first thing I would say, just pray for wisdom. The second thing, I'd say just try to remember that God's not surprised. Like God's not surprised by things that go different. He's not surprised by, something like this. Like God is in control of our future if we surrender to Him. So I would just keep putting your future back in God's hands over and over and over again, because it's easy to feel like, especially like the exams, and it's just a huge part. There's so much stress and there's so much. It's easy to feel like your future is in the hands of that exam. And at the end of the day, for a Christian, it's not. Like, does that matter? Does that mean you just like shouldn't care about the exams and like, oh, who cares? It doesn't even matter. No, that's not like obviously what I mean at all, but just that exam doesn't control your future at the end of the day as a Christian. God does. But the key is just to keep on surrendering and keep on surrendering. So pray for wisdom, surrender your life and your future to God in prayer. And then I would just say, be faithful. Be faithful to the Lord. Good things come out of adversity. For followers of Jesus, I mean, go flip through the Bible, especially if you're one of those students with a ton of spare time, like pause the video game, stop FaceTiming with your friends for a minute or whatever, just go flip through scripture and look at all of the good things that happened in the lives of people in the Bible from the most difficult seasons, who they became and how they lived and what they accomplished for God. So much good and so much growth happened in those really, really difficult seasons. So it's a lot easier to say than it is to live, but I think it's really important to try to ground yourself in the fact that God is in control, that he can do something incredible in your life, even during, a season that just seems like totally chaotic.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think one of the things we've been kind of chatting about as a team, even as a church at this point, is I think often with faith, I think it's often about putting one foot in front of the other. And I think that comes with practice and maybe disciplines. And I think you mentioned some of those. What are some things that we could be practicing in this season that maybe we could see the fruit of some of those things that you're talking about?
Yeah, I think that's really good. Again, especially for the people who are just kind of like sitting around, with not a whole lot to do, and like you do have an opportunity. You have time to accomplish something that without this crazy chaotic season you would not have had. So I would really, really take an inventory of what needs to happen in your life. Like, what could God do in your life? And then maybe this like sounds crazy if you've never done this before, but like put together a growth plan. Like put together, like take an assessment, kind of a sober assessment of where you are spiritually and where you're at in life. And then kind of look at where you want to be. And it's like, man, I want to grow here. I want to become this. Like, I want to win this battle, spiritually, and like get past something and like get over maybe a struggle or whatever it is, and look at where you are and where you want to be, and then put that plan together. And then I think what you said, Shane, is really good. Just take the next step. It's one foot in front of the other. Don't try to go from where you are to like where you want to be way, way, way down the line with some giant like leap. Like it's the little things. It's the consistency of the little things. Don't try to become a new person tomorrow. Do the little things that if you do it today and tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day, and do that for a whole season of life, that the all of that put together will help make you a new person. It's the same as, like physical exercise. One trip to the gym, we can't even make that trip right now, but one trip to the gym doesn't make you a new person and, like help you lose weight or, get fit. It just doesn't. We all know that. It's the same spiritually. Like you can't develop a new spiritual discipline in your life and do it today and expect to be a new person. But those things over time can get you from where you are to where you want to be. And so it's a season. It is an opportunity, and putting together like a growth plan for yourself can be, like a really, really helpful thing.
Yeah, totally. It's funny. I'm probably going to embarrass myself, but I just started working out again the other day, and it's like, my whole body is like so sore. I remember like the first time I did it, and I didn't want to do it the next day. I was like, no way, I can't do this again. I had aches and pains. But that's the reality when you start something new and you trial something new. It's going to be sore for a while. You're going to be testing new parts of yourself. And I think, you just have to push through. You have to grind it out in some ways. And so, I would just encourage anybody listening to this to do some of the things that Jason has just encouraged us with. Hey, another question that I just want to throw at you before we kind of close up is, what is this new normal that people keep talking about? Like, what can we expect? I think in regards to, youth ministry, church, what is that going to look like? What's some things that maybe you're thinking about, you're planning towards? What are thoughts that kind of run through your head when you hear the new normal in the future?
Oh man, it is a big question mark. Like no one really knows. The internet is full people's opinions about what that will be. Again, for me, I think that in such a weird way, this whole pandemic and crisis makes us look at what we do and evaluate it. And you start like looking at like, why do we do what we do? And that's actually a really good question to ask, that should be asked. You shouldn't need a pandemic to stop and ask and evaluate like why on earth you do what you do. But for the church, it's easy to get into these routines and we just do what we do and we do what we do. And it's just like, it always happens. So for me, I think that the new normal might be, if I could like label it, it might just be like creative. Like it's a season of creativity. Like the church is kind of waking up to, hey, maybe what we do it's not the most effective thing. So for me, like the new normal, like it's not like we're all just going to keep doing service completely online and stop meeting together, or it's not like, no, there's going to be a ton of things we go back to doing. But that new normal, it might be a season. I think we kind of like harness it. A season for creativity and for new things and new ideas, and realizing that maybe we spend a lot of time doing things that don't need to be done, and not a lot of time doing the things that are actually the most like effective. Like when you kind of just strip it all away, what does it mean to be the church? How do we operate as the church? So I think that the new normal could be like, in a sense, like back to the basics. It could be a whole new season of like just like a better use of our time.
Yes.
And again, just that creativity. We serve a really, really creative God. He made all of this, and honestly, that's that's really not to like preach a sermon or get super theological, but that's actually a big part of what it means to be human. Like God created this world, and then he made human beings, and he invited us to co-create with his creation. We were supposed to be in charge of God's creation on his behalf, and it was supposed to flourish under the wise stewardship and leadership of humanity. Like we were made for creativity. Like it's part of who we are. It's part of the image of God that's in us. And maybe this season will kind of get us back to that creativity and new things. And not there's a lot of things that the church does that it needs to keep doing. They're perfectly good. Like this is not just a like free for all, throw it all out, it's all terrible. Not at all, but just that new normal could be pretty creative and pretty, in a good way, basic. Like we're doing the things that matter the most, and that's where we're putting most of our time, rather maybe than into a lot of things that don't matter all that much. So that's a kind of a long-winded answer, but there you go.
No, that's really, really good. I think, in some ways it's getting the church back to what it was built on, some of the foundational beliefs and some of the practices that we have been doing for, thousands of years now. I'm really excited about that and what that's going to look like. I think the church is going to look brighter and beautiful on the other side of all of this. I think it's great to see the online presence right now, what people are doing, and seeing God at work through people and ministries. I'm really loving it and enjoying this season. Hey, one more question. What's your prayer right now? What have you been praying? We just love to hear what people are praying. It's one of our big things in St. Catherine's.
Yeah. My prayer, I mean, it's a little bit, I guess, multifaceted. One is just like, I want to make the most of this season. I just pray, like, again, this isn't a huge obstacle, but it's also a massive opportunity, and I don't want to miss it. I don't want to not take advantage of what's in front of me. So that's a big part of my prayer, is just, God, help us to take the right steps and make the most of the season, to lead. I already mentioned it before, but just to lead with wisdom. There's a lot of big decisions that are going to have to be made as things slowly start to open back up, and what steps should the church take, and when should we do what, and how should we do it, and how can the church lead and be the example of how to handle this. So I pray for a lot of wisdom moving forward. And then again, just more as a dad than a pastor and a leader, but I mean, it's both. I really want the Lord's strength to keep up the habits and traditions we've created. Like as a family, we've created some really fun habits as a family, and traditions, and I don't want those things to go away just because this season, I mean, thank God this season is going to go away. At some point, we're not necessarily at the end of it, but that's a big prayer for me, is moving forward. Like, God, all the good things you've accomplished in this chaos, in this season, like how can I steward that moving forward, to continue to grow and continue to lead my family, and then secondarily to lead a church and a group of people.
Man, that's so good. That's why I love you. You're the best. For those of you who don't know, Jason is one of my best friends. I'm a big fan of you for many, many years. So I'm so honored to have you on with us. Thank you for giving up your time today.
Anything for
you. Legend. You're a legend. I appreciate you. Hey, if you want to find out more about St. Catherine's Youth or anything we talked about today, you can head to stcatherine's.ie/youth, or you can follow us on Instagram at St. Catherine's Youth. Hey, we look forward to seeing you soon at one of our gatherings. Stay safe.